Hi everybody, welcome back. Tony again here with Shinsho Yoga. And for this video, I would just like to offer a book recommendation. I have shared this with a lot of my students in a lot of my classes, so I felt I would share it here with you because this is a book that has helped me a lot. And the book is called The Miracle of Mindfulness by Thich Nhat Hanh. Thich Nhat Hanh was a prolific Vietnamese Buddhist writer. I have a lot of his books. I have this one, Heart of the Buddha's Teaching, The Art of Power. He's written many books, and I feel he's an excellent writer and has an excellent grasp on Buddhism. Now, although this book is not about Zen Buddhism, which I am a lay-ordained Zen Buddhist, it doesn't matter. It's all the same. There are many paths to the top of the mountain, but the summit is all the same. What Thich Nhat Hanh presents here applies across Buddhism and, in my opinion, applies across people. And it's a simple book with a simple read. It's 120 pages. Let's see here. 145 pages. Relatively large print, right, in it. Oops. My Kennedy Space Center badge. It's an easy read, and for anyone that's looking to get into meditation, understand about mindfulness, right? It's a buzzword in our day and age. It's often used a lot. So if you've heard about it, you want to know about it, want to understand where it comes from, what it's about, etc., this is the book I would recommend, starting here. It's not a manual on meditation. It's not going to tell you, breathe this way, sit that way, or this and that. It just talks about the concept of mindfulness and how it applies to your life and how you include it in your life. And again, if you're looking to start anywhere with it, this is the place to start, in my opinion. How I came across the book was from a therapist many years ago. Almost 20 years ago at this point. The first therapist that I had gone to was a Buddhist. I didn't know that. Just picked a name out of the hat who was nearby and went to him and was saying I was interested in, learning about meditation and Zen and things like that. And he said, get this book. Now, again, like I said, the book is written by Thich Nhat Hanh. He passed away earlier this year. He is a Vietnamese Buddhist. In the world of Buddhism, sometimes people will split hairs, and say, well, if you're going to study this type of Buddhism, you need to study this. Now, I think Thich Nhat Hanh goes across the board. If you're studying Buddhism or want to know anything about Buddhism, and yoga is where Buddhism comes from, because the Buddha studied from yogis and Brahmins 2,500 years ago before coming up his way of doing this. He got it from yoga, so they are interconnected, they are interlinked, right? But how Thich Nhat Hanh presents it is across the board for everyone. My favorite passage in this book is a part that I often refer to as the contemplation of the table. And the idea behind this passage in the book is understanding the interconnectedness of all of us, right? That we don't exist just in this our own cell, our own space in a vacuum. Everything everyone does is interconnected, and one does not exist without the other, right? And that is a big concept in Buddhism, is having form is exactly emptiness, emptiness is exactly form, meaning everything exists kind of back to back. One exists and so does the other, two sides of the same coin. So this part is my favorite, and I keep that marked, so I'll read it off to you, and hopefully you'll get a little out of it. Consider the example of a table. The table's existence is possible due to the existence of things which we might call the non-table world. A forest where the wood grew and was cut, the carpenter, the iron ore in which became the nails and the screws, and countless other things which have relation to the table. The parents and the ancestors of the carpenter, the sun and the rain which made it possible for the trees to grow. If you grasp the table's reality And you can see that in the table itself are present all those things which we normally think of as the non-table world. If you took away any of those non-table elements and returned them to their sources, the nails back to the iron ore, the wood to the forest, the carpenter's parents, the table would no longer exist. A person who can see that the table and see that the universe is a person who can see the way. You meditate on the assembly of the table and yourself in the same manner. There are some Buddhist terminologies in there that if you look this up and go, you left out a few words in there, like the 5 aggregates that I don't feel are important for you if you're not studying Buddhism. But the concept in that is that the table doesn't exist without so many other things that make the table. Right? The carpenter, the rain, the wood, the parents of the carpenter, the iron ore, all of these things make up the table. So when you're sitting on your couch, or sitting wherever with a table in front of you, you may just think it's just a table. There's a lot that went into making that table. And when you can see all of the things that went into making that table and how they connect with one another and how they are interdependent on one another, you will begin to see that throughout your whole life. Right? That how you interact and what you do with others has that same interdependence, that same interconnectedness as the table. And how when one person acts, it just doesn't just affect them in what they do. It affects everyone around them. So simple as someone who decides to not throw their garbage on the ground when they get out of the car because they don't want it in their car, but decides to take it over to the trash can and put it away. Or the person at the supermarket who puts their cart away instead of leaving it in the middle of the road there because they know people have to drive around it. They know there's people who have to corral those carts. People have to clean those carts. All of these things that exist outside of just the one thing that you do. And that's what mindfulness really comes down to, is that awareness of all of those things that we do, being aware that our actions affect others and other actions affect us. So we make our choices in a mindful way of what we do, to not just randomly do whatever we want to do because it feels good or it's what you want to do, but in a mindful way that makes the world a better place. It's really what mindfulness comes down to. How are you acting in a way that contributes to the betterment of the world versus just serving your own wants and needs? And that's the miracle of mindfulness, is that when you do that and others do that, it has a ripple effect and things change for the better. So, again, if you have an interest in Buddhism, if you have an interest in meditation, if you have an interest in Zen, Miracle of Mindfulness, Thich Nhat Hanh, easy read. Once you've done that, he has a lot of other books that may be helpful to you also, but I would start with this one. So, as always, take from that what serves you, get rid of the rest, and just follow the breath. Let your thoughts arise, let them pass by, and return to the breath. Over and over. Thanks again for watching. Namaste.